Just go for it. Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is such a special report. This is an equinox, autumn equinox report for really the rest of the quarter. So from the autumn equinox up until the solstice, the winter solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere, and even into the full moon. Yeah, the full moon that really closes out 2020, which will be on the 29th of December. So we're going to be looking at the equinox itself, what is connected to it, and how things are going to play out. Now, I am going to focus on more in the immediate future, but I don't want to go too much into that stuff because I already posted a report for this lunar cycle that started with the new moon on the 17th. And there'll be a full moon on the 1st, and the equinox is definitely part of this lunar cycle, and so it all came into play. But I don't want to go over too many of these specific transits because you can get that in the video, and I'm going to link it at the end of this video. There'll be a way to link to that if you want to check it out. However, the first couple of days into fall, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, the first couple of days with the sun in Libra are definitely important to talk about. Because there are threads that stretch from this day out through at least until the election, and have a lot of impact on how this quarter is going to look. I don't know how else to put it. It's pretty clear at this point to me. First of all, this equinox is a huge, massive gateway, and I got to be honest, I did not. I was incorrect in my assessment of how things were going to feel. I knew that it was going to be an incredible point, kind of a stopping point, or I thought it was going to be a lull, and it has not been a lull at all. But it is kind of an intense pressure is more like it. We've come into the point of that last degree of Virgo today, where it's so dense and so much pressure that the only other direction to go is to release everything in order for it to release. And that's really that first degree of Libra, is the archetypal balance of everything that comes into form by letting go of all of the pressure. So that has certainly felt intense today, and I'm sure a lot of other people are feeling it. And I was not anticipating it, because after this, the challenges come, and the time for getting ourselves ready and together is now ending. And as we move into Libra time, this is when we step out and join the others and engage in what it means to be in a relationship and a collective for real, and not just our own conceptualizing of that from our inner experience, which is what a lot of people have been doing. Not everybody, but this equinox, sorry, I'm not new moon, this equinox, the autumn equinox, has got a very absolutely strong Arcturian signature. It is an Arcturian equinox, and you'll see that thread also is stretched all the way through to the election very directly. And what happens on the equinox today with certain elements with Arcturus are going to be a theme. And this gateway is massive, and if you're an Arcturian starseed, this is time for you to step up, and you will if you aren't making that choice. And so getting a starseed reading is a really good way to figure out the different starseed lineages that you may have incarnated from, and get an idea of what all of these different star races, what they're like, how they engage with their environment, what their lifestyle may have been like. It's more about an energetic resonance with these different beings from these different star systems. So if you are aware that you are an Arcturian starseed, for instance, oh boy, that is going to be, you're going to be stepping right into that. In fact, the Arcturian starseeds right now, and Arcturus, the beings from Arcturus in general, are going to be very active in this process for the next many weeks, and probably already have been. So the Arcturians are in ninth dimensional. They are they're like the universal gatekeepers. Like, you can't incarnate into this universe without going through the gateway at Arcturus, and they're the beings that they manage that. So people who are Arcturian starseeds tend to be very interested in things like quantum physics, science, research, very strong in their opinions, very organized. They like to build things. There is a wisdom and mastery with Arcturians, and there's a very strong connection to the ascension process of Earth for the Arcturians. So they're always involved, but this is like a huge gateway opening with this equinox. Huge, massive. Like, it's overwhelming how large it is. And if you are not prepared for it, or if you don't even know what I'm talking about, and don't have a way to conceptualize how you feel in some other format, then there's a really strong chance that as we start moving through the weeks and up until after the election even, it's going to be a rough ride, and there's no retreating back into ourselves anymore after this point. We have done the work, and now it's time to step up and take the test, be part of the group, see what it's all been about. And thankfully, we have all of this Arcturian support and guidance in a really, really strong way, because not only is Mercury is at Arcturus right now, conjunct Arcturus, and as you can see here, let's just get right into it in the chart. Here's Mercury. It's in trine to our moon's north node, our collective destiny. Here is Mercury sextile the south node in Sagittarius. So very favorable and harmonious connections from Mercury that is conjunct Arcturus at 24 degrees Libra. And this is very, very favorable. This is a new spiritual potentiality coming. This is just like getting straight downloads, Arcturian downloads right here. That's about as simple as it gets. And it's very much supporting where we are collectively going. And it has a lot to do with the ability to, the symbol is children skating on the frozen pond, on the ice on the frozen pond, and it's being able to triumph over the entropy of life by skating across that which is made to slow down and contract and be cold. So I want to read it. The developing mind can learn to use restrictions and the disciplining power of cold external responses to rise above the outer freeze and to grow in strength and skill by using the most binding situations to demonstrate his transcendent capacity for pleasure and self-mobilization. So what's coming through with Arcturus through these like direct downloads through Mercury, because this is the realm of the mind, is so directly connected and so supportive of this process of being able to take these circumstances and actually like learn from them and have it build our sense of have it build our character and our mastery over our mind, because that's Gemini, right? That is the realm of the mind and the information and being able to conceptualize its consciousness. Gemini is the technique, the movement of ideas and thought forms and the logos, right? The realm of our ideas. So this is Mercury is conjunct Arcturus at this time as the moon or as the sun moves into the first degree of Libra, which is it's a very interesting symbol. And the animal involved is coming up a few times with different symbolism throughout this cycle, at least my reading of the autumn equinox and this last quarter. So the first degree of Libra says, in a collection of perfect specimens of many biological forms, a butterfly displays the beauty of its wings, its body impaled by a fine dart, the immortal archetypal reality that a perfect and dedicated life reveals. But you see what's interesting about that is the butterfly, even though it's displayed in its archetypal, beautiful, symmetrical form, right? Because that is Libra, is symmetry. The butterfly is also not free, it's dead. It's not even free. And so keep in mind that Libra time, the harvest time, in at least the autumn time, is the harvest time. And that's when we want to balance the harvest in order to disperse all of the material possessions and goods, in this case food, to the community, and it has to be fair and balanced, and everyone gets their share. But still, it's an archetypal perfection that is not based in life being lived, but just a representation of what natural symmetry looks like. But it's, it's a dead butterfly that's like corked to your corked to something, so it could be displayed. It's interesting how it's because, you know what I mean, that there's no attachment, or no well, at least no attachment to whether or not it's alive or dead, or what the reality of the situation is. It's just a balance of symmetry in form. There you go. So we're going to see the butterfly come up again in this report, and that, has a lot to do with spiritual evolution and metamorphosis, and that's a big part of what we're going through. Like I said, we've had all the time to do the work, getting ourselves ready, and now it's happening, and Arcturus is providing a lot of direction and a lot of guidance if we choose to take it. But there are also some pitfalls along the way, and plenty of opportunities to fall into some negative patterns. We still have Mars retrograde in Aries. We still have Chiron retrograde in Aries. We have Black Moon Lilith hovering around Aries. So there's a lot of pull to want to act, but not in a way that's fully expressed, or, there's a lot of inversion around this very potent and fiery energy. But it's not directed in the right place right now. And so you can see how without being grounded and being open to some guidance outside of ourselves, which really speaks a lot to the daily medicine. You can check that out on the Facebook page for Catalyst Energies. And there is, or if you go through the website, which will be in the description box below, you can access the daily medicine readings. And that came up really strong today with the Ascended Master, the Hilarion. Science, research, seeking truth, spirit communication, being open to information from many different realms, not just one singular source of information. That is what it means to master research and science. And Arcturus is, they're in it to win it with Earth, and they have a lot to offer, and it's very, very masterful and very wise, and it's all about building structures with Arcturus. Excuse me. So we have, this is the Equinox chart. And so from here, we have the trine, like I said, to the nodes. So very connected to the collective karmic destiny of us on the planet, with Arcturus getting those downloads. The sun moves into Libra. Now our attention is focused on the whole balance of scales. Very interesting that over the weekend, as the moon was in Libra, we got all the information about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and the, how that plays out for a much larger, on the larger political and social stage, having that happen, and what it has certainly had its impact emotionally. And so now that the sun's moving into Libra, there's going to be a whole month of issues around justice and fairness and balance, and it's going to be a lot about how we express ourselves, because that's the sun. So it feels like it's just going to continue to be more challenging, and it's really going to keep testing our ability to stay anchored into who we are, be open to learning as much as possible, and be ready to hold some level of some mastery, some groundedness, just some sanity as things continue forward, because a lot of stuff's going to start moving into Scorpio real soon in the next couple of weeks. And through this quarter, that's what we're going to get. We're going to get Mercury, we're going to have the sun, we're going to have Venus in Scorpio. And we're going to have a new moon in Scorpio right after the election. So that's where it gets really deep. It's the hard time of year. So let's move forward, because from the equinox, so this can be harnessed really easily, and we have the moon in Sagittarius, which is emotionally going to really lift us, which is a nice, I think it's going to be a very nice, uplifting, hopeful experience as we connect to all of these possibilities, and even using the challenges that we're experiencing as a way to flip the script on ourselves and learn something and evolve more. That's really so much of the opportunity here. And then the moon's going to meet up with the south node very close to the galactic center. And I think this is going to be a moment where we get to personally and emotionally have a memory of where we've been, and we've been able to we've already been to a place where we've understood, and we have created out of that understanding. And it's not, and there's a lot of fire here in Sagittarius. This is the fire of friction and alchemy. I think we'll have a memory of it, a personal connection to it that will help propel us forward, as opposed to we could get stuck there. I mean, the moon is a lot about how we feel and the subconscious stuff that we're not always aware of. So when we cross the south node, they really activate each other, and we may be emotionally connecting to or relating to this really strong energy of hope and optimism and our ability to create anything. But there's a lot of action involved in Sagittarius, whereas our north node is in Gemini, which is way more about the realm of the mind instead of the realm of creation. And that will be something that we can either use to like slingshot us forward, or we could just get stuck in the wrong place and be like, I'm going to act based on these collective belief systems and just believe that it's all going to be okay. We need to be able to actually use our minds to look at our shadow and find a way to skate across that ice when we have to look at our reflection in it, because that's really the way forward. And we have like I said, there's a big opening for that if we choose to take it, because it's going to close. It's not going to close, but as soon as that happens, we're going to start getting set up for all these things. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So the next real big transit is the 23rd, which is the first quarter square. And so you have our sun at 2 degrees Libra, and we're going to have the moon in Capricorn. So right before that, the sun or the moon will have crossed the galactic center, come into Capricorn. And not only is that happening, so let's see, first quarter square. Let's do about an hour from now. We got the sun is going to be squaring the moon in Capricorn, so that's got its own thing there. We have Mercury in opposition now to Mars, so we're still kind of in that Arcturian conjunction, now in opposition to Mars retrograde. So this is where our trust in our own minds, it's a real strong mental energy on the equinox, and so we have to really, really be grounded so we can take it in its fullest without just like kind of blowing a fuse. And in opposition to Mars in retrograde, though, this is, are we going to take that much higher perspective, soaring like the bird over the whole thing so that we can see like the vastness of this picture? Or are we going to get sucked into trying to act on something that has to do with us and what we want and deeply desire, right? Aries is the subjective I am. And retrograde Mars, oh God, everybody's just so pissed off all the time. And this is going to be that first real challenge on top of the first, the square here, crisis in action. And 2 degrees Libra is, the fruit has to fall away in order to release the seed that is now able to be planted for the next cycle. But the fruit has to be, it has to go. That's part of the harvest, is that you have to end that part of it, which is the individualized consciousness. And now it has to be brought out into the collective, into Libra. And so the fruit has to, it's not necessarily sacrifice, it's just the natural cycle of things. In order for the seed to be released, the fruit has to be eaten, it has to rot away, it has to, whatever, any of those things. So that's where the sun is. It's reminding us, in order to have that balance, there needs to be something that changes. There needs to be something that we let go of, or put in a different place, in order to get those scales balanced. And the moon, and it's a knowing, right? It's a knowing of it, and a knowing of the symmetry of nature at this degree, where the moon in Capricorn is really making it much more of a personal safety issue of, like, everything that we build can be broken. And it's not as, Libra is just so, Libra, it's just so, like, personable, and wanting to make everybody happy, right? It's very much, what can I do to, keep it light and keep it balanced, and I'll do a lot of things in order to make that happen. And the moon in Capricorn is very much like, oh shit, taking it very seriously, much more focused on the actual material security that we have, and very much like, if I build it, with that power in Capricorn comes the potential that war will happen, and that will become very real to us in this, right after the equinox. You know what I mean? Something will come up that will really challenge our ability to accept and to express ourselves through this very natural part of a cycle that requires a stripping away or a falling away of the fruit in order to the seed to be there. This is going to be hard. This is going to be hard. This is, and to have Mercury in opposition to Mars. I mean, Mars is at home still in Aries. So we're really going to be tested right after this equinox, but hold fast. We still have the Arcturian aspect. So just keep that in mind, the much bigger picture, right? We want to soar high, but we don't want to get too pulled out of ourselves right now. We want to find the balance right here. And you also have the sun in opposition to Black Moon Lilith. So that's also pulling us into survival mode over here, and what is about us. So you can start to see that we're going to really start getting tested, if we haven't already. And Mercury is also squaring Saturn now, which is still retrograde, but not for much longer. So not only is Mercury in opposition to Mars, it is in square to Saturn in Capricorn. So the reality of the situation, even if we can identify that there is in fact this energy that flows through life, and that we see it and we're aware of it, and we trust that there's so much more going on in the world around us than we recognize. Saturn's still retrograde, so it's not really in full force yet. And so, but it, again, will challenge our ability to soar above all of this and to conceptualize true balance from the widest perspective, which is up, above everything. This is going to be a big challenge. And this is also, okay, so here's the degree that Mercury, keep this under your hat, because this is the degree that Mercury stations direct at, or stations, excuse me, let me find here. This is where Mercury stations, oh, hold on one second. I'm gonna pause. Okay, sorry about that. I just needed to double check my sources. So we are at, we're not there. We'll go to a different place, but we are talking about where Mercury in Libra is going to square Saturn, and it's at 26 degrees Libra. So we're still in the Arcturian window here. And something to keep in mind is this is where, this is also the degree that Mercury is going to station direct on November 3rd. And in the interim, we'll go retrograde, we'll go into Scorpio, we'll go retrograde, come back and square Saturn again, go back into Libra, station direct on the day of the election on November 3rd, and then come back and square Saturn again. And not sure, we'll get to see, not sure if it's going to be while Saturn's in Aquarius or what, but we are going to find out. So let's see, where are we? We're going to look at third quarter square. Still in September. Still here in September. We're still in September, although it feels like October has already made itself very, very present. So here's the quarter square we talked about. Okay, Mercury is going to square Saturn at the degree that Mercury goes direct. So keep that in mind where this square is. This is where Mercury starts going direct again. So again, the Arcturian thread is going to get pulled all the way through, and it's in, in this real big challenge to this very strong Saturnian energy with Saturn in Capricorn, the material basis of reality, the wall of karma that nobody can get around. It's something that it's a challenge, but we're able to transcend it and use this guidance from Arcturus to help us take, like I said, the larger perspective to see what this is all about, rather than being totally up close to it and feeling every single every single piece that's torn away, or every time we can't get over the wall that Saturn represents, like being so personally connected to that and like enmeshed in it, whereas Mercury is really giving us a chance to take a different perspective that is a couple steps back, and using our minds to do that. That's where a lot of the and using fractal geometry, sacred geometry, certain type of philosophical methods, using our ability to channel and to altered states of consciousness, all these mercurial things. We're using the realm of the mind in order to access this guidance and information, and it's really going to help us through this process, because it's going to be continually more difficult as we move along. So that's the equinox moving right into the first quarter square. Okay, so there's a couple things that are going to happen between now and the end of this lunar cycle. Saturn's going to station direct. Okay, Venus is going to trine Mars. Mercury is going to enter Scorpio, and all of that stuff again is in that lunar report. The full moon is going to be Libra and Aries, and that is there's going to be, are we going to continue to be turbulent, and it's pretty close to a conjunction with Chiron too. So, or are we, what is it that we need to let go of in order to revise our attitude at the beginning of a new cycle? Because we will need at some point to allow the waters to calm, at least briefly, or to take our canoe into the calm waters, so that we can see very clearly what it is that needs to go and what kind of revisions we need to make within our very baseline sense of self, right? That's the Aries archetype. So this is all stuff that's happening within the lunar cycle. When we get to the new moon, which is on the 16th, we are then again going to have another activation of the Arcturian energy, because that is where the new moon is at, 25 degrees Libra. Okay, at this point Mercury is now retrograde, and Venus is in Virgo and not Leo anymore, so she's getting pretty down to earth literally about what it is she needs to do to get herself in order. She is the goddess of love, and love in terms of what feels good, what is an actual sensual experience with your 5, 6, 7 senses, however, whatever senses you have, what is in the material world around us and how that feels to us. That's all Venus stuff. And relationships, right, in terms of how they feel, what they represent in our daily life. Going into Virgo, she's ready to start getting herself together at this point, which is going to be really helpful. So this new moon on the 16th is going to then allow us to set some intentions about all the stuff that we got the downloads from with Mercury being conjunct Arcturus, right? That means it was squaring Saturn, it was trine the nodes, trine the north node. So now we get to put it in, there's going to be a big learning period up until the next new moon. And then we're going to put that into action with Mercury and Scorpio now getting really into the depths of things, like going and investigating into the depths of things. Venus, that's like taking it a lot more seriously now. And Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto at this point are all direct. And so this is really, I think, where things are going to start kicking off is the next new moon cycle in terms of the rest of the quarter. So let's look at that chart real quick. October. Okay. And of course, we're going to have a full moon on Halloween on the 31st, conjunct Uranus. So that's also going to be a chance to, oh boy. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Let's look at this new moon on the 16th here. Oh yeah, it's just past it, right? So you see here the square, and then you can see that Mercury is still in a square now because Mercury is now retrograde and Saturn is direct at this point. I mean, Mercury is in, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Look at the moon. The moon and the sun are in square to Saturn at this new moon as well. So now we have Saturn going direct, which is going to be a whole different story. So I hope we really learned something by the time we get around to this new moon, and also set the intention to really embody what we downloaded and learned during that time, because it is right out the gate going to be challenged by a direct Saturn. So, and now we have Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. So Mercury is definitely not going to be in a very strong position at this point. And so we're going to have to start going off of different elemental features, not just our mind, to really start getting through this period of time. And we also have Mars at 20 degrees Aries, so that's coming into retrograde. That means Mars is coming into a square with Jupiter now direct. So this is just getting much more contentious as we go along. And it's important that at this stage we have set intentions to actively develop and to realize the upgrade that we got so that we can implement it. It's going to be really important as we move into this. So then we have the new, we're going to have the full moon on Halloween. So conjunct Uranus. So that should be fun. Surprises all day on something like that. And that'll get covered a lot more in another lunar report. Oh boy. Okay. But we can look at it real quick because it is going to be conjunct Uranus. Uranus is still retrograde, and will be at 9 degrees Taurus, which is a Christmas tree being decorated. You know, it's about finding joy in the darkest period. So you have Uranus retrograde in a degree like that on Halloween, where we have a full moon Scorpio, right? Oh, Lordy. So it's some serious prankster energy. And right before the election, do not be surprised. But it also, let's see here. 10 degrees Scorpio. Let's see what they say. A fellowship supper reunites old comrades, the overtones of human relationships based on a community of work or experiences. And 10 degrees Taurus. Well, I think we know this one. This is a beautiful full moon on Halloween, if I am not mistaken. 10 degrees. A Red Cross nurse. I knew it. The compassionate linking of all men. This full moon, it might be prankstery, but it's going to really bring people together, I think. And we're going to have Mercury retrograde, again, squaring Saturn at the Arcturian marking here. So, oh boy, it's not going to be boring, that's for sure. And I feel like I need some more time here to really get a sense of where that's going. But I will say we'll move on to the election, because I want to show you that this is where Mercury is going to station direct, where it is right now with the equinox. So whatever we start downloading, it is really going to be important at this time, and to realize that Mercury is going to then go back over all that territory again direct. So whatever is happening now, but this time it'll be with all of this stuff, Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto all direct. And so it'll put a lot of things into action by that point. So what we're learning now, what we are coming to understand now, what we may not even, it may not even be stuff that we can make sense of right now. I mean, it's really coming in as just codes at this point. So let your dream work and your sleep time really help start putting those pieces where they need to go. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to really start integrating them and abstracting them enough to allow us to understand them. But at this point, it's just coming in. It may not even make sense. You know, it's just lines of code that are coming in. So by the time we get to this full moon, though, oh, it's going to be nice. We're going to see how we can really come together. And there may be something that shows up that will really stimulate in a, you know, in a jarring or uncomfortable way. It will be Halloween, so who knows, but it'll really stimulate people coming together and feeling a very strong sense of communion. I can feel it. It's like warm, you know, it feels like people are going to get together, that people are going to transcend these barriers that they normally have. And right before the election, this is really nice. So with the election coming, then we have Mercury's going to station direct. Here it is, 26 degrees Libra, and is again going to be squaring, Saturn, and the moon is going to be at the nodes, look at that, it conjunct the north node. Wow. So the moon is going to be, so our personal experience, our intuitive nature, our drive and desire, and our feeling, right? The subconscious realm, that's the internal waters, that's going to be lined up with, you know, the head of our collective dragon here. So, wow. I think we're all going to see where we're headed. And what is that? 21 degrees Gemini. Oh boy, this reminds me over the summer, honestly. It really does. 21 degrees. A tumultuous labor demonstration. Oh guys, that's just, it has to happen. And we're all gonna just get a front row seat for it. We really are. And Mercury is going to be squaring Saturn direct at that same time. Ouch. Ouch. But Mercury is going direct at this point. So just keep that in mind, that we've had a lot of time to really deal with this late Libra kind of master of instruction and knowledge and wisdom over here. We've been working with it for a while. So by the time we get here, we can handle, I think, where this is going. This is going to be so hard. Okay. It's very difficult. So there's more to come, though. That's the thing. Mercury is going to move into Scorpio again. Jupiter is going to conjunct Pluto on the 12th. And I think this is actually where we're going to see some decisions made on the 12th of, so we will have the 11-11 gateway. The moon will come over 30 degrees of Scorpio. That's very intense, coming to Sagittarius. And then, let's see here, on the 12th, no, 2 days. Look at that. The moon is going to trine Neptune. Oh, my Lord. That's going to be really nice. Really nice. I think we're going to start really coming together by this point. If you listen to Jason Estes at all, he has been identifying November 8th as like a window, a time period that by the time we get to the 8th, it'll all be kind of pulled together and we can start moving forward. And it really feels that way with the astrology too. And by the 12th, it'll really be solidified, because Jupiter is leadership. And Pluto Pluto is the Lord of Death, and they're going to come together at 23 degrees Capricorn, which is a soldier receiving 2 awards for bravery. It's not only is the fight being those who have the soldiers, not only are they being recognized and given back by the community for their service, it suggests that the battle is over as well. And I think that there'll be some real closure by the time we get to this time, the 12th, right? And so I'm trying to find day. Here we go. But in the meantime, the sun at 19 Scorpio is going to trine Neptune. Wow. 19. A parrot repeats the conversation he has overheard. This is 19 degrees Scorpio. The capacity to transmit transcendental knowledge with Neptune. Wow, there's going to be like a collective transmission or something. That is interesting. So here's the 12th. Look at that. Jupiter is going to oh my gosh, look at that. Jupiter is conjunct Pluto, and at the same time we have the moon and Venus pretty much conjunct at the same time as well. Oh, that's really nice. In, where are we at here? At 20 degrees Libra, that late Libra. Whew. What do we got here? 20 degrees Libra. A rabbi performing his duties, the ability to draw on the power of an ancestral tradition in order to serve and inspire one's fellow men. Inherited wisdom can be focused through a person. It's kind of keeping with the traditions, and to have the moon, and look at that too, will be enshrined to the Gemini, the tumultuous labor demonstration. So I think things will be really, there'll be a lot of closure. I get the sense there might be a big loss on that day, but it'll be a big loss that is accepted as a natural changing of the guard in some ways, right? Because you do have Jupiter, which is leadership and management and the big picture, right? Jupiter is the leader and rules Sagittarius, and then Pluto is the Lord of Death and transformation, them coming together at this degree in Capricorn. It's kind of like it's over, and in fact it's a changing of the guard and a balancing of the leadership in some ways. And then to have the moon and Venus together in Venus's home sign of Libra, it'll be really important and probably necessary to find some way of performing the rituals that give us a sense of balance and peace during this time, emotionally and in terms of what feels good, what looks balanced. I get the sense that it's going to be like a huge release at this point on the 12th. Now, we still have the rest of November to go through in terms of what's going to happen. So Mars is going to go direct. There'll be a new moon in Scorpio. As you can see here, we still have the sun in Scorpio. Venus is going to move into Scorpio. The sun moves into Sag. You can feel the cycles turning, right? Neptune will go direct at this point. There will be a full moon on the 30th of November, which will be a lunar eclipse. And then we get into eclipse season, right? And Sagittarius and Gemini, because that's where the nodes are. So we're really going to start dealing with the aspects of where we've been and where we're headed, which I think is really appropriate, considering that by the time we get here, there will be the timeline that we are meant to be on, we will be squarely on at that point. And I think that the loose ends, I don't know if they'll all be cut and dealt with and tied up, but it will, it does seem like 10 degrees Sag, that we will be dealing, like I said, the sun will be in Sagittarius, so we may be feeling, or at least giving our attention to the collective sense of identity and belief. A theatrical representation of a golden-haired goddess of opportunity. Society's efforts at dramatizing the greatness of what it offers to the ambitious person. Ooh, yeah. I think that that's interesting. We're going to talk more about that. Mercury is also going to move into Sagittarius. We have a moon solar eclipse at 24 degrees Sagittarius on the 14th of December. We're in December now. It'll be conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius. Lots of Sagittarius energy, lots of South Node energy. There's a lot of hope, a lot of hopium out there. And as we move through the rest of December, we're going to see Venus move into Sagittarius as well. And then really as we ramp up to the this winter solstice, the big thing, Saturn and Jupiter both move into Aquarius. Mercury will move into Capricorn, and then things are going to get real. The realm of the mind is going to start coming into a singular track. It's going to get very focused, down to earth, very serious with Mercury and Capricorn, and very focused on resources. And then we're going to get the winter solstice, and then there'll be a full moon, Cancer, Capricorn, right at the end of 2020. And so with the solstice, thing will be more specific as we get closer, obviously, but the big ones that I'm seeing are the fact that Saturn and Jupiter are both going to go into Aquarius right beforehand, and Mercury is going to go into Capricorn, Venus is going to go into Sag, so she's going to be really excited and like very optimistic and very just like, the big picture here, and especially with the relationships, there's just a lot of optimism around all of that stuff. And that's also where the new moon is going to be, is in Sagittarius at that point too. So there'll be, it's after Thanksgiving, it's the lead up to Christmas, in terms of the holiday season. And I think that there will be a lot of, there's going to be, a lot of cheer, and there's going to be a lot of optimism, and there's going to be a lot of hope for the future, which I think is great and is important. But once we get to the winter solstice, I feel like things are going to start really moving in the direction of the Aquarian age, and we're going to get very locked into where our thoughts are really going to start being directed towards how to bring that into form, and be very much more, like I said, about resources, material security, things like that. And we have to be mindful, we kind of don't give ourselves away to agendas that, even though they're Aquarian, they may not be of the highest order, if you know what I mean. You can still be Aquarian and still have service to self mentality. Just look at the Borg from Star Trek. That is a perfect example. That is an Aquarian entity that is a service to self, collective, basically. So that's just something to keep in mind as we move towards the solstice, because that's going to not only bring it into a lot of power with Saturn, and then Jupiter is going to be there, and it's going to be a lot about expanding into the leadership and management of these energies. So I think that, like I said, Arcturus is big, and we have a lot of there's so much to learn and gather right now to, hold space for this process to unfold. And it's going to be really important that everything's going to start, I wouldn't say speeding up, but like Saturn and Pluto going direct in the next couple of weeks, like moving through the rest of this quarter, and having such a strong Arcturian component be connected to the election in the United States and through this whole season, really. And then to have all of these planets start moving direct in or around that time, to the point where the only retrogrades by the time we hit January are going to be Chiron and Uranus, and that's not going to last more than a month or 6 weeks. And then we'll have all planets direct except for when Mercury. So by February, things are going to be really chugging along on the ascension, timeline. We're just in the period now that is the transition state. And where we at right now as we move into the equinoxes, that we have like the pressure that we have put ourselves under in order to then step forward as part of a group and be ourselves in that context is upon us. And we are very fortunate, I think, with Mercury in the position that it's in with Arcturus in this process. So let's see, where are we at? I haven't even, let's look at the, we'll look at the solstice chart real quick, and then I think that's good. We can wrap it up. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave comments. Please like the video so it gets some traction. You can subscribe to the channel and get notifications, all of that fun stuff. And everything you need is in the description box below, including the website for Catalyst Energies and various social media links and an email if you just have general inquiries. If you go to the website, you will find everything you need to book a service. It includes astrology readings, starseed readings, intuitive tarot readings, and right now distance energy work through Reiki treatments and attunements. So that's all there on the website. Here is our really lopsided and kind of solstice chart. It does feel like consolidating in some ways. So we have Mercury. It's going to be, the moon's going to be in Aries. Mercury is going to be conjunct the sun at the solstice. There you go. Venus is in Sag. These guys are in Aquarius. Everything's moving direct. You know, the energy is kind of coming over the top here. That's what it looks like. Everything's, and then you have the moon is about to conjunct Chiron, 5 degrees Aries. Mars is now direct. Black moon Lilith is very close to Uranus. So within a day or so, she will be conjunct with Uranus and, you know, bring some of that, you know, Uranian Stargate disruptive, you know, electric energy. We might be feeling desire to really act. We might not even realize we need to act, and we will when Black Moon Lilith meets Uranus. So, but here, yeah, the moon is going to conjunct Chiron on the solstice. Mercury is going to be conjunct the sun as it moves into Capricorn. Oh boy, and then it's going to be, and it's going to, we're going to start dealing with like the actual essence of reality now by the time this goes. And we have this stuff in Aquarius, so that's anchoring the bigger transpersonal energies into the Aquarian age that we're going into. And then with the moon is going to conjunct Chiron at this point, which I think is going to, you know, bring, you know, it happens every month. And so in this month, it'll happen right at the solstice. So that'll really bring all of that wounding and victimhood right to, I wouldn't say necessarily say the surface, but it looks like it just probably squared the sun right before coming into this conjunction. So, you know, it'll certainly bring us to a place where we're really feeling very strongly our sense of personal wounding and victimhood. And that's just going to keep going until Chiron moves into a new sign. So that's a big theme of our lifetime, basically. That's what we signed up for, right? All right, so I'm going to link at the end of this to the lunar report that was for this new moon that was on the 17th. So the full moon is on the 1st. The next new moon is on October 16th. So you can get more specifics from that one. And I hope everybody's doing well. Reach out if you need anything. I will see you on the next video. I'm going to stop this share and say goodbye.